Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us on Facebook, the Facebook Live Talk, the Mentors Talk every Sunday. It's 9 p.m. in Tunis, it's 3 p.m. in Eastern Time, USA and Canada. This is Fares Ben Souilah from Tunisia, and I'm really honored today to host one of the most outstanding professional coaches worldwide. She accepted my invitation. I'm really happy to host her tonight. Kay Peterson, welcome. Happy New Year, New Year, and thank you so much for accepting my invitation.
Oh, it's a pleasure to be with you, Paris. It's a pleasure. There's nothing I'd rather talk about than learning.
Thank you so much. Kay Peterson, let's introduce you. Kay Peterson is the founder of the Institute for Experiential Learning, a global service organization that promotes called experiential learning to develop whole integrated people who are capable of dealing with the world's most challenging dilemmas. Kay's goal is to put Kolb, or David Kolb experiential learning on the agenda of every team and organizational change and development effort, and anyone looking to enact personal change. Kay has also initiated a broad array for programs and materials that promote experiential learning and learning flexibility in individuals, teams, and organizations. The most important part also of the path, Kay earned a bachelor degree from Vanderbilt University, an MBA also from Case Western Reserve University. In addition, she holds a master, I think, from Emory University. She's a professional certified coach, a Gestalt professional certified coach, and a member of the Forbes Coaches Council. She co-authored with David Kolb the books How You Learn is How You Live. And this is our topic tonight, using 9 ways of learning to transform your life. Kay, welcome again, and thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
Let's start with the first question. This is very, very important. I want to know more about the Institute for Experiential Learning. What's this institute, and when was it founded?
We, yes, thank you. We founded the Institute for Experiential Learning when David Kolb retired from teaching at Case Western Reserve University in the business school. We wanted to find a way to form a way to spread knowledge of experiential learning. You know, up until this point, if you hadn't been lucky enough to attend CASE or be part of an educational program that promoted Kolb experiential learning, it's possible you weren't introduced to experiential learning at all. And so we wanted to find a way to spread this word so that every individual is able to learn how to learn. So that is our mission.
Very good. When did you meet first time with David Kolb, who is one of my mentors? I admire him because I was following his path and his experiential learning. When you've met first time?
Yes, actually, David and his wife, Alice Kolb, who is also a professor, taught in a graduate program that I attended at Case.
Mm.
And actually, unlike you, I was not familiar with experiential learning. So it was my first introduction to it. And sitting in that class, Ferris, it was almost like someone turned the lights on for me.
Yeah.
And just everything made sense about how I learned, just learning in general, that learning is actually the way we change and adapt and continue to develop throughout our lives. And so it was a big moment and quite an awakening and an insight. And I just knew at that point that it was important work.
Absolutely, it's something magic, I think, and this is very interesting. Um, you had the experience with adult learning. After that moment that you told us about it, that was the, let's say, the switch to adult learning, or started before?
Well, I was very interested. I mean, I think any of us who are involved in helping professions are in learning. We help people learn. It's just, I think it takes different forms. So my first career was actually in nursing and in healthcare. And there's a lot of educating that goes on in healthcare. But I also was very interested. I started working in business and was very interested in how change happened, how change occurred, how people continued to develop themselves, to learn and grow. And so my interest, I think, came more from a coaching perspective, perhaps, than formal classroom training.
Mm. How you learn is how you live. So our lives are determined by our learning way.
Well, I think there are a number of important concepts in that title. One is that learning is involved in everything we do in life is learning. Learning is greater than a classroom picture of what happens in school or in formal training programs. All of life is learning. I mean, we're learning when we make decisions, when we solve problems, when we partner or even parent, we are learning. And so all of those things holistically can be grouped in this learning framework. And it turns out that one of David Kolb's very important contributions is this model of learning in the learning cycle. And this is a process, an ideal process of learning. Oh, good. Well, so,
Yeah.
would you like me to review it a little bit? I'll digress a little bit from the title, but we can come back to that.
Yeah.
But I think this is probably one of the most recognized graphic illustrations of David Kolb's work and such a huge contribution. You know, experiential learning is actually based on the work of nine actually foundational scholars who contributed, and certainly included in this learning cycle are the work of Lewin and Dewey and Piaget. But David Kolb identified an ideal process of learning. And it's really something that we can teach people in about 5 minutes, Fares.
Yeah.
It's the steps of experiencing, reflecting, thinking, and acting. In other words, we immerse ourselves in a direct experience. Now that implies we have to be awake for the experience and mindful of it. But once we have that direct, concrete experience, we can step back, reflect on that experience, make sense of it, take many perspectives, then draw some conclusions, reach some conceptual generalizations of that experience. And then we have to take that theory or concept into the real world and test it out to see if it holds true. And that, of course, creates our next experience. And so this cycle actually becomes more of a spiral. And we're using this in milliseconds and over the course of our lifetime. So it's, it happens in many time frames. But as you can see, David Kolb understood that learning requires more than thinking alone.
Yeah.
It also requires our feelings, our perceptions, our thoughts, and our actions. And we actually take in information through two different ways, feeling and thinking. We process through reflecting and acting. And I think that tension is really what drives learning. And that's what this cycle teaches us.
Yeah.
So,
by the way, I was born in 1984, so I have the same age of the cycle. And I want to say also to the audience that the concept of experiential learning invented by David Kolb was adapted also in adult trainings. And we have the adult learning circle adapted to deliver competencies during an adult training. All right.
And that, I think, is so essential. And you've touched on critical, Fares, in saying this, that we do continue to grow and develop throughout the course of our lives. And so we can constantly put this in motion. But the truth is, we do have preferences for using it. I said you could teach this in 5 minutes,
Yeah.
but it's a little tricky to employ it because we all have preferences for how we use that cycle. So you actually took the assessment and you, I think, have identified your preferences. What, if you were going to say, if you take in information, is it usually through concrete
Concrete
experience?
experience, yeah, concrete experience. And I'm not a thinking person. I'm not a logical or reflecting person, not logical person. I'm more in practicing and also getting informations or competencies through concrete experience based on my background, which is very, very important for me. And I know as a trainer, this is a big question because a lot of trainers and coaches, educators are watching us actually, and they are asking themselves, I have my own profile, how to deliver competencies to all the profiles and to satisfy people in the training room. That's, you are a coach and you know it.
So Paris, I think actually it's really important for us. This is a huge contribution, I think, to us as coaches and
Yeah,
educators, that we have to come to our work first as learners and understand how we learn. Because as we know, that cycle puts us into a dilemma. And
yeah,
we typically preference one um, parts, certain parts of the cycle, and may avoid or underutilize other parts. However, we are all capable of using all of the cycle, and we do this all the time. It's
yeah,
just that it may be outside of our comfort zone. So while we have our preferences as coaches and educators, as parents and as partners, as even in conversation, we are most successful if we can lead learners around the entire cycle.
mm.
And that may mean that we have to stretch from our comfort zone in order to do that.
But I think the cycle will remind us that we have different people than us in the training room, and we'll be careful about that because as an educator, maybe I will forget them when I'm implementing activities, exercises, etc., because I'm not in my comfort zone.
I've started, when I run trainings on, I've started actually taking a poll initially to say, why are you here? What is it you're most hoping to
Mm.
achieve today? And identifying 4 parts of the cycle. For instance, experiencing to reflecting would be to connect with people and find personal meaning. Reflecting to thinking would be to get expert advice and knowledge. Thinking to acting would be to come away with practical applications. And then acting to experiencing, which is your kind of comfort zone,
Yeah,
would be actually trying things out, trying it out and see. And I ask people to identify their primary preference and say, okay, so that, notice how we are all over the board. Other people have different preferences. And I can promise you, you probably will be a little uncomfortable about 50% of the time today, because we will use all of these
I do
parts of the,
agree. Yeah,
yeah.
I agree. Let's be back to the book before evolving more on the 9 profiles. I saw something amazing, which is the self or the think remembered self versus the experiencing self. And this is a big fight, let's say, because we are focusing more on our background, on our previous experiences, which impacted our future experience. The question is, should we fight against the first one to learn better? Should we focus more on the experiencing self? That's my question.
Well, and I think the answer lies in the learning cycle. It's a both and. We
Mm,
actually, as a child, I think we are probably more focused in the here and now,
mm,
in the immediate experience. And as we have more experiences, we have more memories. And but our memory can be a little faulty as we are making judgments.
Yeah.
And so we really, I think, and we become more reliant on what we remember. You know, honestly, we would be overwhelmed if we didn't make these shortcuts in life. We are bombarded by information in the environment all the time. And so naturally we create shortcuts that allow us to bypass some of this data that we need to process. And I think that's what happens. We go into autopilot as we get older. So it is important. One of the really important aspects of experiential learning is that learning is based in our experience, our own experience. And that requires that we're awake for those experiences and mindful and present so that we can constantly then revise our theories and test them in the world.
That was amazing because I saw a statistic that you shared in the book, which is 500 millions moment of 3 seconds. I said, wow, when I saw that. Wow, 500 millions moment of 3 seconds. That's the 70 years life. Yeah.
But the truth is, it goes quickly, doesn't it?
Yeah, life is going so quick, so we have to be careful and to hurry up. You know, David Kolb invented the learning or the experiential learning cycle many years ago, more than 30 years, and you came, I think, 3 years ago with a new book, which is how you learn is how you live. What are the new things or the real evolution of the concept after 30 years?
Oh, that's a great question, Barry. You know, wow, there's a lot. First of all, I think there's a renewed interest in experiential learning right now, especially given our experiences in the last year and moving learning online. There is so much happening. And first of all, I think so much has happened in terms of understanding learning style. First of all, making the learning cycle explicit and really having that be a philosophy of living, but also now one of the um, fairly new contributions of Jim Zoll, a biologist at Case Western Reserve, is that the learning cycle actually follows the process of our brain. And so now we know we are wired to learn through this process. It's a natural process for all of us. And so it's not just a pedagogy, it's not just an instructional design methodology, it is the way we're wired. And so that's a very exciting new finding, I believe. Another thing is that David Kolb's original work highlighted 4 learning styles. And over the past maybe 8 years, 8 to 10 years, the styles have evolved into 9 styles. And so they're further subdivided or granular. And it's a very helpful concept because the styles are actually ways of navigating the learning cycle. Perfect. So in other words, if my style is initiating, which is your style, Fares,
Yeah.
I'm taking in information through experiencing, processing through acting, and probably spending the least amount of time in analyzing style. So it's a way of navigating the cycle that leads you in certain directions. And we refer to the styles as possibility processing structures. In other words, we see a certain array of possibilities for any decision, and we actually want to be successful. And so we continue to go in the direction of what makes us successful in life. So you may look for situations where you can seize opportunities, kind of fast moving, practice-based opportunities that are maybe not mired in detail or too structured or And so you're going to further refine that style by doing that. A new concept in the past few years is that of learning flexibility. In other words, we know that people don't one style. We all use many styles and
Yeah.
have a range of comfort zone within the cycle. And the truth is, most of us do have parts of the cycle that we favor and parts that we may underutilize or avoid. And those that is kind of speaking to the title of the book. But so this concept of learning flexibility, in other words, being able to use all 9 styles to respond to different contexts, is one that I think, as for coaches and educators, it is really a game-changing concept. So in other words, we may have preferences, but over the course of time, we can continue to develop capabilities and competencies in all of these styles.
Uh,
So,
I want to ask something, because when I was teaching or delivering the experiential learning cycle to my trainees, for example, I was saying, maybe I'm wrong, that we can enter by the 4 doors. Let's consider the experiencing part, or the reflecting part, or the thinking part, or the acting part, 4 doors. Is it logical to enter from acting firstly, for example?
I I think that we can enter any place, and I think we all have preferences for how we
Yeah,
enter. The important concept is that we touch all bases and we use all 4 modes of learning. And
good.
that's where we really realize the benefits of experiential learning in terms of retention and creating new knowledge and being able to apply learning in the real world.
I like the word balancing in the middle, which is very important, which is a skill, I think, that we can learn as an educator, as a parent, as a father, mother, something else. Let's focus on the comments. We have Nabil Henshiri, who is an HR manager. He said it's clear, according to the 70-20-10 model, 70% of what we know comes from the experience and trying new things. Do you agree with that?
That-
So 70, 20, and 10 model, 70% of what we know comes from experience, and we are trying new things after that. We have also a question from Munir Frija. He said, do you agree with the relationship with the PDCA of Deming and this cycle? For me, plan, do, check, act. I don't know. Maybe Kay will explain more.
Well, let me go back to the 70-20-10. And I think that research stems from a Center for Creative Leadership study that was done. And I think it's really important that,
Yeah.
because that is one of the real benefits of experiential learning. We know that so much of our training happens on the job. And I think that's what that 70% refers to, is on the job training.
Mm.
But if we don't know how we learn, or we are not familiar with the process, the chances are we may be operating using 2 modes, maybe 3 modes of learning, and not the whole cycle. And so we may not be as successful in transferring knowledge, in understanding and developing competencies. So if you really want to accelerate and act as a catalyst for on-the-job learning, helping employees to understand the learning cycle, how learning occurs, and how they currently approach it is key. So, and then going on to the plan, do, check, and act, I actually love this question, because I think one of the things that is so appealing to me about David Kolb's work is that this learning cycle is so holistic. We can actually overlay most adaptive processes onto this cycle and have it make sense. And then from there, for instance, we can put project management, teamwork, problem solving, decision making, innovation. We just use the cycle in different ways. So we may put more emphasis, for instance, in innovation. We want to move quickly to action and not get too mired early on in analysis and thinking and in the details, because we want to check it in the real world to see if we're onto something. And so you can really use this cycle as a foundational model for most adaptive processes.
Let's take an example. For example, I want to animate, let's say, brainstorming to solve or to resolve a problem. How can we start? Let's make a simulation, a small simulation of the cycle.
Well, first of all, I actually associate brainstorming with the imagining style.
Okay.
So that is a place where you just want free reign. You want to diverge. And this is where you're connecting to that kind of intuition and reflecting and just taking lots of perspectives, letting the ideas fly without judging them. So in brainstorming, they really focused on that diverging part of the cycle, not converging or judging, but just allowing creativity to flow.
Very good. I noticed in my inventory that I'm not a flexible person concerning the learning. I have the score of 0.2 in flexibility. So I prefer to remain in my comfort zone as a learner. Is it something good or not for you?
Well, I think actually the learning cycle doesn't judge good or bad,
Mm.
but we know from research that there's benefit over the course of a lifetime to being flexible. And so I'm going to suggest to you, Fares, that if we spoke in a week, you will be aware of your flexibility. So that's one of the beauties of taking the KLSI.
Yeah.
It raises awareness. So now when after our discussion and you're reading that report, you're going to be aware when maybe you're acting very quickly or not taking a pause or taking time to think of details or structure things, not conceptualizing and judging based on facts. So I think your awareness will change. So that's the first thing in developing flexibility. But we do know that flexibility and is tied to more choice, greater range in handling different situations. It's also of interest to coaches tied to later stages of adult development. And so as we are able to develop more flexibility and use more styles and parts of that process, and by the way, parts of ourselves, because the cycle really represents our feelings, our perceptions, our thoughts, and our actions, then we are able to, really integrate ourselves and manage more complexity in life.
That's really amazing. I want to ask something. It's let's say a question that comes every day when I'm delivering an adult learning circle training or something like that. Is it natural? Our profiles or our styles, are they naturals or the environment? For example, based on the pyramid of Robert Dilts, the environment will impact the behavior. How it comes to get such a profile or another one? This is my question. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's a great question. And it's one of the differentiators with Kolb learning styles and many other trait-based typologies. Learning styles are influenced somewhat by personality, but they're also very influenced by environment, by culture, by our career choice, by our educational specialization, and just by the demands of everyday life that of our context. So yes, very, very influenced, which actually should give us all great hope, because even though we have preferences,
Yeah.
we can use the learning cycle, use this learning process to develop other parts of ourselves and competence in other styles. So it's a both and, but definitely not trait based. So yeah, I noticed you said earlier, Fares, I'm not a thinker or I'm not logical.
Yeah.
Might not be a preference, but you're certainly doing that all the time. It may just be a little outside of your comfort zone and take more bandwidth when you do it.
Of course, and I need the other styles and profiles to for my job, for my work, for my life, which is really important. Now came the question of how to develop our learning flexibility.
Well, I think first of all, just awareness that learning flexibility is there. That was one of the big insights for me when taking the KLSI. I kind of knew my strengths, but I wasn't sure what I was missing. And I think just the awareness of that graph, I don't know if you'd want to show yours or your graph or
No
not.
problem. I will do it now. Yeah.
It might be interesting for people to see that. And I think just actually grounding ourselves in what our preferences are currently is so important. Carl Rogers is a foundational scholar of experiential learning, and he talks about this importance of really, calls it the paradoxical theory of change, that we first, before we try to change, we need to really ground ourselves in who we are now. And so if you can go to the next page, I think that
This one?
actually, let me just go over this. If you want, I'll just talk about that kite earlier. Yeah, if you go back one, I'll talk about that.
Yeah.
So this is actually a picture of how you prefer to use the learning cycle. And so again, you're taking in primarily through concrete experience, and you love action. You love doing things. And so a quickness about how you process things that actually someone who has a preference for reflecting and acting, or reflecting and analyzing style, may process so much more slowly than you do. So as a coach, if you can understand that and appreciate differences like that, it can be really helpful.
Yeah,
So,
you know, Kay, when I'm preparing my trainings modules, for example, I'm reflecting a lot and also I'm analyzing a lot, but it's just the context that put me in that situation. But naturally, I'm more in concrete experience and active experimentation.
well, you've just defined learning flexibility, Fares,
Yeah,
though that response to context, the demands of what is happening around us, and being able to switch like that, to use both and, as we say, in both of those styles, even the styles that are not perhaps natural preferences. And most of them have become natural preferences because we've practiced them, and but because it's beneath our conscious awareness that this happens, we may not, we may not acknowledge that, but yeah, it's a great example.
but that's amazing because I was making the effort. Let's say now it's not really an effort. It's a part of my job. It's a part of my life. But I'm reflecting, thinking, analyzing because I'm happy to experiment my job in the training room. So the other profiles are serving my comfort zone profiles. Yeah.
That you just said that so beautifully. It's you going deeply through your own style to get there, and
Yeah.
it's actually it's serving you, because if you were only operating in initiating, if we overuse our preference, we actually can go to the downside of our preference. So we will give up the upside of the opposite style for fear of going to the downside. And in doing that, we'll endure the downside of our own style for fear of going to the downside of the opposite style that we don't value, we want to avoid. But you said that in reverse, actually, that when we can embrace even a little bit, when we can embrace the opposite style or styles that are not in our comfort zone, we actually can play to our strengths even more and realize our strengths. Yeah.
Yeah. Should I go to the other pages?
Yes. So the way then we score the KLSI is scored is that it takes through a mathematical formula, it takes your scores from
Yeah.
your
Yeah.
that and
This is my flexibility score. Yeah.
so this indicates that your learning style preference is very stable.
Yeah.
In other words, that you really have a strong preference. And if you can go to the visual of that, which I think is actually more important for coaching, is this, because this is showing your preferred style in blue and your backup styles in green. In other words, these are styles that you use regularly, but it's also showing your kind of developing styles, the style you may need to pay attention to and be a little more deliberate in your use of them. And
Mm.
again, you can think of those as being steps in the process, steps in any process. And if you skip those steps, for instance, if you skip imagining, you may not think of new opportunities. If you skip reflecting, you may be aiming at the wrong target and just jumping too quickly, taking unnecessary risks, actually.
Yeah.
If you miss analyzing, you may be missing a model that can explain. Actually, we're analyzing right now using this model. If you skip thinking, you may miss making your own judgment about things, drawing conclusions. If you skip deciding, you may not set a goal and or know how to measure success. And so, in balancing, you may skip taking different perspectives and looking for what's missing. And so you can miss a lot if you skip a step in the process.
Yeah, I'm not really afraid because, for imagining, for example, it's really developed when I'm reading novels because I love books. I love novels, so I have a great imagination. But all what I do is to serve the other perspective. I believe that I have to be careful about all the steps, all the profiles to get the balancing. But I'm curious to know for other profiles because, of course, you did it for a lot of people. Do they have other parts in green or and blue? I feel like limited here in the cycle for my own profile.
Well, I think you have described ways that you are using other styles. So remember, this is a snapshot of how
Yeah,
you answer the questions on the KLSI. So it gives you an opportunity to see where, I mean, they were your responses. And so it's based on the way you answered the test, but you've given examples of how you are using other styles all the time. I did some work, a study on lawyers, Fares, and about over 60% were thinking, deciding, and analyzing style. So that would be very typical of STEM professions, of science, technology, engineering, and math. And
mm,
so, learning style can lead people into um, different career choices. And so, a lot of the work that's been done, you can see in some ways, what is missing if you are focused on one part of the cycle. Then oftentimes you have to spend more time developing other parts of yourself. So, for instance, for STEM professionals, oftentimes it's working on collaborating or emotional intelligence or building self-awareness. And so that would be the more northern part of that cycle that of concrete experiencing, the things that you're doing all the time.
I agree. Dr. Meher Tworbi, who is a founder of a lot of universities here in Tunisia, said, is there a relationship between the learning flexibility with the ability of making the different methods as learning routine?
Different methods of learning routine. So if I understand the question correctly, learning flexibility can really help us structure learning. In other words, I think we as educators want to help scaffold learning situations for learners so that they will be nudged into building flexibility. And if we are more flexible as educators and aware of those tensions that exist all the time, pulling us back to one part of the cycle and aware that we need to be, using all parts of it, then we will be more successful creating experiences that use the entire cycle. Does that answer the question? Can you check with?
I think so. I think so.
Okay.
Meher, if you want to reply, welcome on our chat on Facebook. How to develop the learning profiles with the children?
Oh, that's a great question. Well, I think, if you think about children, they're learning through experience all the time. I mean, think about a child learning to walk and how that happens. And certainly, um, and I think we can see how children develop preferences early
Yeah.
in life, you know, um, for being more reflective or more active, more concrete or more abstract. And so as parents or educators, I think creating opportunities for them to practice again, just what we're trying to do with adults when we coach, practice in a way, making that routine. We can do that through questions, with children, we can help them pay attention to their experience and build an emotional vocabulary that's more complex. We can help them take time to pause and say, well, let's just look at that from different angles. Let's think about, how would I look at that? How would someone else look at that? And then to help them draw conclusions about what their experience has taught them, and then test it in the real world. So we can create opportunities. This is one of the most practical tools you could ever find. It's with us all the time. We are constantly getting feedback from the environment. And actually, that's something I think parents can do, is help give feedback that's immediate and
Yeah.
ongoing, that is developmental feedback and performance necessarily.
uh, let's think about it. Should we push children to get a balanced profile, or keep them going naturally to their preferences or comfort zone?
Well, experiential learning is also a theory of development. And it follows Jung's theory of development, that it occurs in 3 stages. One is acquisition. And so that's where we're really learning, just testing things out in the world. Then as we enter our late teen years, we go into a period of specialization. And I think that's what you're talking about,
Yeah.
is time when we go toward our interests. And that's actually a very natural part of maturation. And if we go too far through that accentuation, where we are going toward our interests and naturally away from other things, then we are going to become more successful in a particular career path, but we may actually take it too far and become entrenched. So we are only thinking in one way. We are only around people who actually reinforce what it is we know and do. And we aren't taking in the whole. And so this holistic view of learning, I think, is really important as we keep all this in mind, that specialization can actually help us be very successful in the world and in life. And we are going to come across challenges that require different parts of ourselves. And so we will probably be happier and have more choice if we continue to try to build more flexibility in how we approach things.
Is it suitable to the new generation, a connected generation, social media generation, Z generation? Is it suitable for them, the learning cycle?
Oh my goodness, more than ever, Paris. Um, yes, we have a lot of learning partners who are involved in, obviously, in universities around the world. And one of the things that they're reporting is that students are not reading like they used to, that they long reading assignments aren't, they're not successful in doing that. And I think what we're learning about social media is that um, AI actually can reinforce our biases. So
Yeah.
if we are interested in something, then all of a sudden our feed is coming in and putting us more in those directions. So I think more than ever, we have to take charge of our own learning. And that's why we're so passionate about helping people learn to learn and take charge of their own process, empowering them to do that. Because I think that's how we're going to create good citizens and people who can manage the complexity that we're experiencing in this world. And as we always say, learning faster than change occurs.
I
So
see.
more than ever, I think it's
More than
relevant.
ever, yeah, that's the answer. Nabil Henshiri said, how can online learning help with the experiential learning?
Oh, that's a great question. And one we've been facing this last year. Hasn't it been remarkable how we have adapted over the past year to learning online? And I think we've learned some really, I mean, we're learning along with everyone. But we have developed a program about online experiential learning training. And I think it's actually fascinating. One of the things we're learning is that, it's connection before content. We need to pay attention to connecting, that we actually can use online techniques and methodology and design to around the entire cycle. So we can create experiences where we're in discussion groups, in breakout rooms. We can put online content even in a flipped classroom. We can actually technology can support our ability to measure learning and, doing
False.
polls and, quizzes. But more than that, with experiential learning, it's actually helping learners to understand how to evaluate themselves
Yeah.
and giving them constant feedback to do that. And then actually practicing by using project-based learning and teamwork and actually doing things in the real world. So I think it's a beautiful platform for experience.
Yeah, I can share with you two experiences. Maybe it will make you happy because I'm applying the cycle. Yesterday, I delivered the facilitation session online and I used everything. Kahoot, Jamboard, the mural, breakout rooms where people are thinking, they are back to the plenary, they are evaluating themselves, conversations, etc. And I learned that from Click Institute. So I want to say hi to Fernando Sanchez Arias and Lars Haslund. They adopted and they were inspired also by your book. And they developed something what we call the 13 ions or the 13 steps to develop this session of facilitation, which is very, very interesting, with accelerated learning, pleasant learning, something very, very excellent. So yeah, we can do it online, and I did it. Actually, the challenge is to have a producer, maybe, because maybe we'll have some blanks during the training online. We need to prepare the breakout rooms, etc. So we have to keep the attention of our audience and the learning partners, but everything can be done online. So I agree with you. Thank you so much for this answer. Um, so when we think about the profiles, if you wanna, Kay, please, I will share the styles, and if you wanna explain all the steps and all the 9 profiles, please.
You would like me to explain them all?
Yeah.
Absolutely. So again, these styles, remember, are not traits. They are simply ways of using the cycle that are then expressed with different focus, I guess, and different motivations. So in the experiencing style, this is where we love being in the moment with people, in relationships. We are very aware of our emotions. And this is the person who loves to meet face to face, actually, and uses a lot of intuition, but loves teamwork, very aware of the environment. And in this, you talked about competencies, Fares. This is our emotional intelligence. And this is where we understand how to relate to each other and be mindful and present. In imagining, this is the person who actually is very creative, diverging, loves actually thinking of the other. This is our place of empathy and helping. In imagining, we love to keep things open. And again, we're using our feelings and reflection. In reflecting, we love to take our time. In reflecting, we love to process things. We focus on information, taking lots of perspectives, but we don't like risk. And so sometimes we may give up an opportunity to act for fear of making a mistake. In analyzing style, again, we're using thinking and reflecting. And this is our place of structure and organization and detail. This is the person actually who can use a theory and model to explain things. We love spreadsheets here in analyzing. And in thinking, this is where we are using logic. And in thinking, we can be a little skeptical. Again, now we're as far away from experiencing as we can be. We're on the other side of the cycle. Here we're taking in through facts and logic. In fact, we might like working alone more than working with people in thinking. And in deciding, again, opposite of imagining, in deciding, we can judge very quickly. We love to be practical. We want an outcome. We want to converge here, not diverge. We want to know how we're going to be successful and set our goals to do that. In acting, this is our place of getting things done. This is, where we are leading teams. We're operating with limited resources and getting things done on time. And so again, opposite of reflecting. In acting, we go quickly. In fact, we often in programs will have people come up with a gesture to represent their style. And this is the gesture for acting. Come on, time is money. Let's get going. And then initiating, you can tell us about initiating. It's seizing opportunities, right?
Yeah, and actually we are doing initiating because we are summarizing. So we'll give our audience the new competence and the new information, which is the called experiential learning cycle, which is really, really interesting. I want to thank you so much, Kay Peterson, because it was a big honor for me to host you. I will give you the floor by the end of this live talk or the mentor talk. What would you like to say to parents, educators, trainers, coaches, people watching us actually? What would you like to share with them, especially in a special era, which is the COVID-19 era or the new never normal who changed the world? Stay safe, Kay Peterson. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, I would encourage everyone just to adopt this attitude of learning. I think it's a beautiful way to go through life. And when we can do that, when we as adults can be learners and model that for our children and other learners, even other friends and colleagues, I think it's really a different way to go through life, and it allows us to write our own story. So I would encourage everyone to learn how to learn and really use this foundational information. Again, we've provided that handout that please pass out freely. We're happy to share that. And
Of course.
we also, we offer, we have formed for 10 years now a community of practice. So anyone who is interested in learning more about that can join our community of practice, and I could send you a link for that. It's on our website.
Yeah,
We
so
actually,
experientiallearninginstitute.org, experientiallearninginstitute.org. Just connect the website and you will get all the information. For the KLSI inventory, it's not for free, but people can buy the inventory. And you have categories or just one category?
we have actually several assessments that are
Okay.
on the website. The individual Kolb learning style inventory, and we'll have a new announcement soon because experience-based learning systems is actually coming out with a new version of the KLSI, which is very exciting. We actually have a new team learning report, which reports learning styles at the team level and takes the process to the team level so that teams continue to improve and develop this executive consciousness and ability to continue learning. And we think that's a real key for organizational learning as well. And then also so. Learning style flexibility 360 that actually helps to give feedback from others about our ability to develop capability in other styles. So yeah.
So even for training managers, they can do the assessment for the organization, for the team, and then they will decide what kind of trainings they can offer to their teams to continue learning. So that's an amazing thing.
It's so powerful, Fares. Yeah. We're finding really, it's so very exciting because teams, we know from research that teams that are diverse in learning styles, and this is a real deep diversity, which is a new take on diversity rather than demographic diversity, are more successful, especially in very complex, with complex outcomes, and they experience less conflict, which is kind of paradoxical. But that's a huge finding. And so teams that learn together are actually more successful, and we know are more profitable, they retain knowledge, and so the benefits are just huge. So yes, we have assessments and also programs that we would welcome you. We have a wonderful certificate program. In fact, David and Alice Kolb are facilitators in that program. And we have a wonderful faculty group of scholars in experiential learning who are part of that team. So
thank you so much. I want to thank you so much. Please say hi to David, because I hope one day to meet him, or to meet him online, maybe, because he is one of my mentors. So Kay Peterson, thank you so much. I want to remind all the audience, please connect Experiential Learning Institute.org. You can get all the information there. I have a big announcement, because in February, I will host Robert Dilts, which is one of the most outstanding coaches, also one of the most renowned persons for NLP, neuro-linguistic programming. So Robert Dilts accepted my invitation. He will be my guest on 7th of February. And next Sunday, I will host Jean-Philippe Ackermann from France to talk about optimism. So yeah, but it will be in French. Thank you, Kay, and have a nice day. Hope to see you soon, and keep the hard work, because you did an amazing job with the book. And I want to say to all my audience, please just go to Amazon or other platforms to get the electronic version of the book. How You Learn is How You Live, David Kolb and Kay Peterson, which is a very interesting book. Bye bye. Thank you so much, and
Thank you,
have a
Gary.
nice day. Bye bye.